but I think you guys see the power. So how do we bring in a void? So if we make a new project, so we basically want to have that conceptual mass family and then make a project family and, you know, pick architectural. So all we need to do is just, if we use Control Tab, we can tab through all the viewports. And then there's a even under Create, it's located everywhere. There's a Load into Project. Now, before we do this, we want to name this thing. Okay, so if I just load into the project, it's going to load Family 1. So to name it, we need to save it. So as soon as we name this file, it names that family. And then I click Load into Project. So as soon as I do that, it tells me a couple things. It brings the project. Now, you want to have one project open typically. If you don't, it'll ask you which project to load it into. This is telling me it's turning on mass, show mass, great. And then I can start placing it. Okay. Now, my opinion is, it's sometimes, you don't have to do this, but it's sometimes a good idea. This position here of these two x's, these are two reference planes. This represents the 0, 0 position. And again, you don't have to do this, but we could place it there. Now you can see by me doing this, the void got moved, you know, and it got totally. So this is maybe what you're talking about. Yeah. So this is me moving the top face. So maybe it's like, no. So that was me accidentally just moving the top face. When we move the entire piece, should not do that. So I put it at a 0, 0 position. So if I load this back into the project again, it'll overwrite the existing. And then I can move this to a 0, 0 position. So that way I know it's in the same spot. So we really don't know where the 0, 0 is unless we turn it on. So remember VG, site, project base point. So there's a 0, 0. So then I can pick this and move it. So now they're in the same position. It's not a big deal, but the reason why I like that is because, and again, it's not a big deal, but I like, you know, whatever. I was trained originally, or learned CAD first, so it's a little bit of a 2D move. So these are, what I'm moving around here are my elevations. So if your elevations are in your object, you will be looking inside your object. So we want to move these little elevation annotations that they actually are looking, you know, elevations are sections, right, cut in front of the building. So once we have, so what we have now is basically this reference geometry. And it's not so much reference, it's actually embedded in Revit, in the Revit project. So if we go to mass type, there's mass type 1. So this is our actual mass that's embedded. So the good thing is every time we sort of reload it in, it sort of updates it. So the reason why we named it as mass type 1 is we always want to open up, if we're going to do any modification to this, and we'll do that, I'll show you. You want to make sure you always update the right one, right? So you want to keep track of the name. What I can do with this now is set up my elevation. You know, you always need to set up your elevations, or sorry, your levels. This building's a little bit large. That's fine. So you put your levels, right? We pick our mass floors, and then we can mass our floors at those 3 levels. So there they are. So That's great. And then we can go ahead, we can go ahead and go to our schedule. Do our mass floor schedule. And then we can actually, probably, sorry. So there's our grand total. Okay. Now the great thing about this is, I don't know if it's so great, but so you see how I'm toggling through and I'm going through all the viewports. If you go to view and say close hidden, this will just open one view for each one. Okay, so when you want to toggle, it's not a big deal. So if I do any modifications to this, so say I make it taller, and say I make it longer. If I load this back into the project, and I want to overwrite the existing, if we had parameters, we're going to do parameters eventually, it doesn't matter. Our numbers update. So our floor plans update, and then our areas update in real time. So this will allow us to sort of, we can massage, and it's actually nice to maybe have it in a different file. The reason why, it's sort of referenced somewhere else, so I think it's easier to edit the geometry as a mass and conceptual mass, and we can do other things. So we can start adding, like I showed you, the facades, but we can do so many other things, like make structures. Even in conceptual mass, we can do some pretty elaborate geometries that get transferred as real geometry. So the one thing to keep in mind with conceptual mass is any type of massing we do, like in this sense, this is not geometry. This is not considered like, I mean, it's geometry. It's a mass. It's a solid. But in building component language, it's nothing. Okay? It's just like envelope stuff. But we can make real components, architectural components, apply them into conceptual mass. We're going to do that eventually. And then load that into the project. The conceptual mass will go away, but those components will stick around. Okay? So the plan for today is to do this, bring it into a project. Go ahead and do your sheet layout. Give us a little schedule with your areas. Okay. And then get it out as an STL. So we don't want to do the STL here. We want to do the STL here. So under add-ins, STL exporter, this is where we export it. Now, a lot of you guys might be missing that, but we'll jump on a machine that has it. Okay. So how many people are doing more than one? So I would try to print all the 8.5 by 11s, but just pick the one you want to print. Okay. So I am a big fan of many. So, but to be fair, we can only print one. Okay. That's the plan for today.